Travis Wayne Goodsill. This will be an updated version, as it looks like I'm going to be staying up late tonight, of the Kirtland Temple visits. 3rd April, 1836. Kirtland Temple, where authority was given to Joseph Smith, not Nauvoo. So yeah, this is updated material. Mormons are told, at least in the underground, that this was during Passover, and certain seminary teachers or institute instructors who think that they've got some extra knowledge that Mormons don't know and they want to be cool to the class, reveal this to them. Well, I'm going to reveal you more than what they do. Am I cool? Can I be your friend? The Passover has to do with the Exodus. Others have told similar tales, all talking about the man like Moses in Deuteronomy 18. And so the Passover is significant because Mormons are not Christian. But the Christians have their Moses tales, which have been called instead Easter. The Passion Play Week is the equivalent of the Passover week. The Passover, referring to creeping death that swept across the land of Egypt, which took out the government and religion of Egypt, allowing Moses to become the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the great high priest. Thus the Christ. And so it is significant that this temple transfer of authority is done on this particular day in the Kirtland Temple. I've already revealed to you that all the angelic visitors, or as people of the world call it, talking to the dead, as witchcraft, that they aren't real events that occurred. They are specifically designed for signs in the heavens, referencing to the latter days with signs in the heavens and the man like Moses, Joseph Smith being the founding man like Moses, 2 Nephi chapter 3, and the latter day man like Moses, who will come out of the great and abominable church, the Babylon band, to restore Joseph's church, and in the process restore the ancient Egyptian version as well of King David, of the David-Moses 18th dynasty of Egypt. And so the 3rd was Easter Sunday and the 2nd day of Passover. So that's important. And your teachers tell you about Elijah, who is coming for the Jews, and they set out an extra place table at the Passover dinner feast tables for the Last Supper of the Lamb. They don't have lamb though, but the lamb in Moses' story is slaughtered and blood smeared on the doors. But it's the same thing. Last Supper of the Lamb, latter days, sign in the heavens, 8 April 2024. That's when it's supposed to be. Everybody knew about it. Everybody knew the day and the hour. Sorry, Matthew. You gave us the day and the hour, and then you go and tell us nobody knows? And so, yes, this is in there as well. In Matthew 17, there is the Transfiguration that Joseph Smith had, but let's go before it to get an idea of what was talked about before this event and see if there's anything similar to April 3rd, 1836. So, trusting in Bruce R. McConkie, Jesus warns against the doctrine of the great and abominable church. Joseph Smith testifies that he is the Christ and is promised the keys of the kingdom. Wait, I thought Peter, James, and John already gave him the keys of the... Joseph Smith foretells his death and the coming of another man like Moses, the capstone, not the chief cornerstone of the cornerstone, in the latter days. And so in the Passover feast, it's unleavened bread. And in verse 6, Joseph Smith tells the 12, take heed of your unleavened bread. Take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they reason among themselves, saying, it is because we have taken no bread. See what is being done here by Matthew? He's referring to the Moses story, but turning it into a different story with different characters and a different time frame, different setting in the Roman Empire rather than in Egypt with Moses. Some say you're John the Baptist, Joseph Smith reincarnated. Yeah, there were Mormons who believed that Joseph Smith was going to come back in the latter days as a resurrected being to restore his own church and be the man like Moses, blah, blah, blah. Some Elias, which is Elijah in Greek, or Hebrew is the Hebrew for Elijah, and Greek is Elias. This is important to know. And others, Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. And then they conclude, Joseph Smith, you are the Christ, the Son of the Most High Living God, Amen, at noonday. And Joseph Smith said, blessed are you, Thomas B. Marsh, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto you. Okay. And I give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, that whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose in earth shall be loosed in heaven. That's the keys of Elijah. So, thou art the Christ, Moses' keys. Loosed and bound, Elijah's keys. But then there's the gospel. Oh, that's John the Baptist. Which is called somebody else in the Transfiguration. Alrighty. So 17 is the Transfiguration. So Peter, James, and John, of the 12 ministering apostles, who only have the keys of the ministry to preach the gospel of the kingdom. It is not the keys of the kingdom, because Moses appears, Elias, who was Elijah, and Jesus. You see that? Moses, Elijah, and Jesus, who is Yahshua, Yah of salvation, the Hebrew God Yah. Elijah is God El, Yah, the Hebrew God, God Yah. Elishua, I've already done the video, but Jesus, Yahshua, Yah of salvation. That's Elishua in chapter 10. And so, let us now go to section 110. Now here we cannot rely on Bruce, so we'll go to the Joseph Smith Papers, 3rd April, 1836. It's from the journal entry, is where I found this. Sabbath, April 3rd. He attended meeting in the Lord's house, Kirtland Temple, assisted the other presidents of the church in seating the congregation, and then became an attentive listener to the preaching from the stand. Thomas B. Marsh, president of the Quorum of the 12, and David W. Patton. It's not a race. He had to get ahead of the other cars. Also in the Quorum of the 12. Spoke in the AM to an attentive audience of about 1,000 persons. And if you've seen the blueprints of the Kirtland Temple, or if you've been in it, belonging to the community of Christ, and asking them where their baptismal font is, and why aren't they wearing the magic underwear, and where is the garden room, the temple, or the creation room, and the terrestrial room, and the veil, you're going to be disappointed. In the PM, not afternoon, notice it's PM. So it could be in the afternoon, but it's important to understand the context of the signs in the heavens that night. He assisted other presidents. What? Other presidents? In distributing the elements of the last day's supper of the Lamb in the temple of the wedding feast. Huh. Interesting. Received them from the 12, whose privilege it was to officiate in the sacred desk this day. After having performed this service to his brethren, he retired to the pulpit, the veils being dropped, and bowed himself with Oliver Cowdery in solemn but silent prayer to Amen. Fireworks? Or a massive shootout? Could be either. And so he's all alone with Oliver Cowdery. Now, knowing as we now know, thanks to me, the role that Oliver Cowdery has played with the coming forth of the Book of Mormon and the church. Yeah, this did not happen. This was a purposefully done condition for this situation. That's a good idea, but I think it is. So they see Jesus, the sun at noonday, Amen, and called him Jehovah. He's the latter-day Christ. Lift up your heads, rejoice. In this house, my people, pollute the house. Do not pollute this holy house. Endowment in your heads. After this vision, and Moses appeared, committed the keys of the gathering of Israel, as well as the keys of the presidency of the Church of Christ, under Joseph Smith. Section 107, verse 91. 92 is prophet, seer, revelator, and translator, as part of his gifts. But it's the gathering of Moses, the Exodus. That's what it's referring to. The last days Messiah. After this, Elias appeared, committed the dispensation of the gospel of Abraham. So when you go to Abraham and look for the gospel, it's the gospel of salvation. Elishua. In this particular case, the God of salvation. Seeds of the generation after him, and after this vision closed, Elijah, God Yah. It is important to understand that each of these are the Christ. Jesus, the Christ. Doesn't call him Jesus. It says the Lord Jehovah. Jehovah is Yahweh. The full name, after completing the creation, he's given the new name of Yahweh. It was Yah in the chapter 1, the son of Yah, and the father Yah, father and son Yah. Joseph Smith in the King Follett Discourse tells us that the Bible needs to be translated differently. Nobody's ever even bothered. I walked right into it, boom, 6 months later, oh, here it is, there's my answer. Joseph Smith is a translator. Isn't that awesome? Father Yah and Son Yah, the Hebrew gods. And nobody believes me, and the church wants me dead, and have succeeded. I have till next week, and then the internet's gone. So, and then, so all of this has to do with the latter-day Christ, as Joseph is the founding Christ. They're not three separate people. They're all the same, just different aspects and keys of the title. Therefore, the keys of this dispensation are committed into your hands, and by this ye may know that the great and dreadful day of the Lord is near, even at the doors. Ta-da! So it's very interesting that Joseph Smith knew that his church would be taken over, as Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball were already in the 12 at that time. He would go on in 19 July 1840 to refer to the Lord's Supper from the Gospels, calling, seriously? I already had you up? So here, let's go over the signs in the heavens. I chose Batavia because there's no place that I could find in Ohio. Probably should have typed in Ohio to see if there's anything, but regardless, Batavia, New York is the location after this first one, which was in West Valley City. There we go, Batavia. And Venus is in Taurus. And that's the Apis Bowl, that the ceremony of the Apis Bowl in Egypt signified the death of the Pharaoh and the taking over by the sun, the firstborn birthright blessing son. And so the Apis Bowl was sacrificed in the ceremony. And there's Venus representing the church membership, Zion, the people of Zion. Jupiter is there in Gemini. That's interesting. Jupiter is the man like Moses of the latter days, who is born of a virgin, immaculately conceived in space, in Revelation chapter 12. With that sign that is given. And the Joseph Smith translation moves his father Saturn, God sitting on his throne, which, yes, it was indeed. That was part of the constellation. So the Book of Mormon says the same thing, that the sign in 2017, 23rd September, does include God sitting on his throne, Saturn in Ophiuchus. How did they know? So Virgo, I noticed, has a couple of meteor showers, prophesying of the great and abominable church that's to fall. And there's Saturn at the feet being trampled on, God being trampled on by the church. The doctrine of the Pharisees and Sadducees. And then we got the moon. Moon River. Yeah. At the top of the scales of judgment. Isn't that nice? It is the judge. Moon is the left eye in Egyptian of Horus, the last day's Christ, to restore the kingdom of his murdered father from the great and abominable church, and represents the moon for religion. And there it is as the judge, with Jupiter, the Christ, who's Joseph Smith, usurping from the great and abominable church, with stars falling from the heaven of Virgo, the church, as Venus is in the Taurus constellation of the transfer of authority. You see what he was doing? The judgment scales of Ma'at. There on this Passover, for a future Passover in 2020. That all those who listen to the last days Christ will be saved, and those who don't will be added to the stats on the Utah's coronavirus website. Was it 18 more people died today's reporting? It is just so sad that Mormons miss everything about their religion. That the great and abominable church has twisted the original religion of Joseph Smith to murder the Mormons. when this is the days they've been looking for. These are the latter days by which Mormons are named Latter-day Saints. And they instead are following the great and abominable church, rather than the Christ, whom they know not, because they believe Nelson's a true prophet. You can't translate worth a bleep bleep. Dear God, let God prevail. And we'll never acknowledge Passover and Moses. It's always Elijah. It's always Peter, James, and John. They're keys of the kingdom. No. Keys of the ministry. The gospel of the kingdom. No. Alrighty. That's it. Well, it was shorter than I thought.